before we get underway with our induction ceremonies here, the Mazon Color Guard will present colors. At this time, if you could please stand, those who can stand, and gentlemen, if you could take off your caps as Linda Meister sings the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the hope of the brave?
Thank you very much, Linda Meister. As the Grundy Color Guard is with us today. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Again, a big welcome to all you folks here. I'd say good afternoon, but it's literally good morning to everyone. My name is Sam Kalwazinski, and I'll be the host, or whatever I'm called, for today's induction ceremony. But before we get too far into the day's proceedings, Bob Richards, four-time midget champion of the United Auto Racing Association, will say a prayer before we get underway. Bob Richards.
Thank you, Stan. I'd like to have a moment of silence for the racers we have lost in the last year. Chuck Stebbins, Pat McGee, Jim Gates, Bill Cooper, Fred Nielsen, Chuck Merritt, Dave Decker, Barb Carter, Mel Dorland, Jim Piccarelli, Bob Guest Jr., Eleanor Vogler, Mickey McCuska, Fred Rompler, Phil Ryder, and Ryan Stebbins. They are deeply missed today. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day to be together with family, friends, and fans to celebrate the 2025 Hall of Fame induction ceremony, creating new memories and renewing old memories from the past. God bless our military men and women, our law enforcement, first responders, and those who have died for our freedom. Many of us miss church today, but remember your words from John 14:6. I am the way, the truth, the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. Remember, it's not too late. We pray that you have safe travels as we head home later today. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Thanks, Bob Richards. Hall of Fame 2025. Auto racing in the Grundy County area. I'll give you a quick history of it. Won't be too long, 20, 25 minutes maybe. The first documented races in this area started back in 1926 at the old Grundy County Fairgrounds in Mazon, I should say. It was a half-mile, egg-shaped racetrack, and they raced there in the 20s and into the 30s. And in 1936, they built a quarter-mile or fifth of a mile dirt track right in front of the main grandstands because midget racing took off in this area. Midget racing, and these were fair dates primarily. They'd run maybe a spot race here and there, but mostly during the Grundy County Fair that these events took place. In 1947, the Mazon Speedbowl was built, the famous Mazon Speedbowl, fast, treacherous. Tony Bettenhausen was the winner of that first feature race in 1947. Stock cars came to Mazon in 1950, and the final races at Mazon Speedbowl were in 1970. Lee Schuler was the winner of the final feature race that day, and Ray Young was the track champion that season. Now we're at the new Grundy County Speedway. It opened in 1971. Ray Freeman was the feature winner on May 30th, 1971. Jim Gates was the first midget racing feature winner in July of 71. 2024, just last year, a new figure eight track was installed at the Speedway here. And here we are in 2025, the 55th season of racing NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series. Grundy County Speedway is part of that. And you can't forget, you start talking about racing here in the Grundy area, you have to remember the Midway Quarter Midget Track. And I bet you Ron Kessler's the only guy that knows anything about this place. It was a little quarter midget track located at the corner or the intersection of Route 113 and Route 47. And they raced there from the 1950s into the early 1960s. So that's a quick summary of racing here in the Grundy County area. But we're here today to honor our inductees, our 2025 inductees. So we're going to start off with our first inductee will be John Gordon. John Gordon is a 1977 and 1978 Street Stock Division champion here at the Grundy County Speedway. And when I talked to John a month or so ago, he said, my whole family raced. Uncles, my dad, my brother, they all raced. My older brother Dan raced at Grundy and on the dirt at Fairbury. He remembers that the Mazon Speedbowl was the first place he ever raced at, and one of his memories of that, he participated in a demolition derby in 1970 at the end of the season. And he had this Mercury that he kind of put together, and the son of a gun, he won the demolition derby during the final race. And he'll never forget Frank Welch, who was the president of the Fair Board at the time, and also the director of competition out there. He did a lot of stuff, of course, Frank Welch did. He comes walking over and presented John Gordon a $100 bill. That made John Gordon feel very, very special back in the day. So around 1975 or so, John started racing stock cars. He built his own cars. His dad, of course, built a lot of stock cars prior. He had all the tools, equipment, the welders, etc. And he built this car using a Ford LTD. I can't believe he'd use a big old Ford LTD, but he somehow cut it, sliced it, diced it, and made it into a Mustang. In 1977, he was the track champion here at Grundy, capturing the street stock honors. He did it again in 1978, back-to-back championships. Most of the time, John said, I was the only Ford in the field with a bunch of Chevrolets and Mopars. He bought Joe Shear's car, Joe Shear's late model car at an auction. And if you know who Joe Shear was, he was a top Midwest driver. His equipment was pristine. So John buys this. Boy, he's got a hot rod now for this late model racing. And he enters late model competition here at Grundy and at Indiana's Indiana Motor Speedway. Well, the first year, 1993, he's racing, a suspension part breaks, and he flips that new late model car over at the half mile at Indiana. Not to be, perturbed, he comes back to race here at Grundy County Speedway, and yours truly was the announcer that night, and in the final lap of a feature race in May, he's battling with Death George, wheel to wheel, last lap. And they get tangled up and bang, boom, crash in the wall over there in turn 2. And John remembers that like it happened yesterday. He said, man, oh man, I broke my back in 3 places. I broke my sternum, I bruised my heart, and that was the end of John's racing career. But good to see John here today. Him and his wife Sandy started to do some tech inspection, helping with tech here at the Grundy Oval for a number of years before they relocated to Florida. So it's my honor today, the 2025 inductee to the Mazon Speedbowl Grundy County Speedway Hall of Fame, John Gordon. John, step up here. No doubt you have a few words to tell the folks.
I guess I'm kind of glad that I lived through all this, and the memories I see around here are incredible. I mean, there's thousands of pictures I actually recognize in the people. And Grundy's been really good to me, and the town of Morris has been good to me, but I love Florida.
John Gordon, everybody, give him a big hand. Our next inductee is Steve Naples. Steve loved race cars since he was a young boy, admiring them, working on them, buying them, and eventually racing them, drag racing, in a '68 Mustang. But all of a sudden, about 2006, he was introduced to oval track racing, Super Cup cars. And he was going to be a sponsor of one of these cars, but no, I think I want to race one of these cars. So he ended up buying a car. And he was a Mini Cup car owner, driver, race cars. He was excited and joined the Central States Region CSR Super Cups race series, practicing on his days off from work. He became treasurer of the club and then president. He lived and breathed Mini Cup racing. He never missed a race in all his Mini Cup oval track racing days. Under his direction, the series raced in 4 states in the Midwest, but settled to the Grundy County Speedway as the association's home track. Steve spent countless hours promoting Mini Cup racing and the CSR series. He bought a race simulator, took it to various car shows, and including the World of Wheels, to promote racing. Steve was all about kids having fun and competing in racing. It was important to him to help kids grow into good racers and into good people. He loved doing anything he could to help them rise in their racing career. Most of them are adults now, and a lot of them thank Steve Naples for his efforts when they were just young kids. He won 1 feature race at Grundy County Speedway, but that wasn't important to him. Important to Steve was the CSR group and the racing. A few months later, after his feature win here at Grundy, he was diagnosed with cancer and had to step back from what he loved, being the president of the club and promoting racing to kids and adults. Sadly, Steve Naples passed away in May of 2021 at the age of 60. 2025 inductee to the Mazon Speedbowl Grundy County Speedway Hall of Fame, Steve Naples. And coming up here to accept the award, his longtime partner, Pat Cremo.
Okay, I do have a few things to say. There's 9 pages, but I talk really, really fast. Thank you so much for this award. It means so much to me, and I'm honored to collect this award for Steve. He would be thrilled. I was his fiance for almost 30 years. It's so nice to see people here today. I have his friends back there. Stop it, Kathy. I have his family, my family, our racing friends, my friends. Thank you all for being here. As he already said, and I'm going to repeat a few things, Stan, he loved race cars. He was interested in his whole life. 20 years ago, he came home with a Mini Cup. He joined the CSR Super Cups. He practiced, watched everyone, learning everything he could about Mini Cup racing. He bought a race store in Harvard, and the drivers would meet there, have drivers meetings, sell race cars, race parts. When he became president, he bought an engine dyno to make sure all the racers were raced on the same playing field. He had a race simulator he brought to car shows, and the racers could practice on it. He loved when kids joined the series. They can join when they were 8 years old. He took time to get to know them and help them become good racers and good people. After the kids moved up to other series, he followed them through their racing careers. He would see them race, he would drive far, cheer them on when they were on the track and off. He was very proud of them. Steve went to many car shows, the World of Wheels, downtown Chicago St. Patrick's Day Parade. He joined other racers in their hometown parades and car shows. Like Stan said, he never missed a race. Since 2006, he made Grundy County Speedway his home track for at least 10 races a year. Steve had so much fun at the racetrack all day long. He thought it was good family fun. He met so many good friends, and a lot of you guys are here today. He was so excited for every racer when they won their race. After tech, he would join in their celebration. He won a handful of heat races and 1 feature, and that feature was here at the end of his racing career in 2018. after Steve passed away, two of the CSL alumni racers, one that drove 3 hours to be here today, made memorial decals. And a lot of the racers added them to the race cars for the remainder of the season so they could remember him when they were racing. And this touched my heart. And then I'm almost done. And I timed it. It's only 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Steve was a great man. He was funny, smart, kind, generous, positive, fun, happy, and helpful. He would help anyone with anything. He was a successful businessman who worked hard and he played hard. I'm glad he had racing in his life because it made him so happy. Nothing could make Steve more happy than being inducted today into the Mazon Speedbowl and Grundy County Speedway Hall of Fame as a friend of racing. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Bill Freis. In his own words, he told me, ever since I was a kid sitting in the grandstands at the Joliet Memorial Stadium or Blue Islands Raceway Park or Grundy County Speedway, I knew I wanted to be involved in racing someday when I grew up. In 1991, Bill told me, I was at the IndyCar race in Milwaukee with my dad and his buddies. I asked my dad to borrow his camera, and I went up to the fence and started taking some pictures, and I got this great shot of A.J. Foyt looking at me with a smile, which was pretty rare for A.J. Foyt. But he was hooked. They went to the camera store, or the camera house in Joliet the following week and bought his own camera. Started taking pictures, buying a pit pass, going to the Grundy County Speedway. And that was the beginning of this motorsports photographer's career. Jack Markley, the late Jack Markley, at the time was a photographer for the UMARA midget group. And the following year he told Steve, I want to retire, you can be the new photographer here. Several years later, he told Steve Finnis of Stars that they need to have someone walking in the pits with a wireless mic, interviewing the winners in between races and on the track after the feature races. Next thing he knows, he's got the microphone in hand. He's a photographer and an announcer. He was good friends with the Carter and Anderson families over the years, and kind of hurt when Big Don Sr. and Big Jim passed away. He started promoting the Carter-Anderson Classic each year. To bring things full circle, he was the track announcer for the final race weekend ever held at the Joliet Memorial Stadium, the last stand at the stadium in 2009. And I know Bill was a big, big part of that, organizing it, putting it together, etc. He thoroughly enjoyed traveling in the Midwest, but home was the Grundy County Speedway, and that is where he met his wife almost 25 years ago. He especially likes to thank 4 guys that are no longer with us: Jack Markley, Phil Ryder, Brian Kabinski, and Aaron Willis Sr. Those guys were tremendous help to him, and they became friends. 2025 inductee to the Mazon Speedbowl Grundy County Speedway Hall of Fame, Bill Freis. I know you know how to use this.
I do, but usually everybody's turned around facing the other way when I was doing it. It's a lot.
Just see the back and hips.
Yeah, right. I did that already. All right, first of all, I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame Committee for this great honor. Congratulations to all the other inductees this year. It's a great honor to be selected for this and to be able to do it today with my brother-in-law, Jimmy, my father-in-law, Everett, and my buddy, TJ. Makes it even that more special. I don't have any championships to talk about or my feature wins or my favorite race car, but I have a lot of memories and I've made a lot of friends doing this. And I met my wife here in 2000, so it's been pretty good here. I want to give a quick shout out to 2 guys that helped me out a lot that can't be here today. And everybody put them in their thoughts, Larry Domark and John Myers. And I just got a bunch of people I need to thank for me being here today. It wasn't just me. I have to thank, as Stan mentioned, 3 guys that are no longer here. Jack Markley, Aaron Willis, and Phil Ryder. They were tremendous friends and tremendous help to me when I was starting out here. Jack and Aaron gave me my first opportunities taking pictures, and Aaron kind of let me help him promote a couple races along with Mike Motherway. And Phil was a great photographer, traveled the country, and he was a good mentor and friend to me. Thank you to all the owners, club owners throughout the years. That allowed me to work for them and with them and taught me a lot. Guys like Aaron Willis, Jack Calabrese, Steve Finnis, John Myers, Glenn Winstrup, Laverne Spencer, Jerry Murphy, Bernie Myers, Joe Kirking, Mike Guglielmucci, and Bob Guess. I have to thank members of the media that made my job easy when I was doing race results and pre-race write-ups. Guys like Dick Ross from the Gillette Herald, Scott Slocum from WJLL, Mike Guglielmucci and Bernie Myers from WJLL, Rick Pearl and Tom Churchill from Victory Lane and WSPY, Tommy Smith from Next Media, and the late Brian Gapinski from Midwest Racing News. Thank you to my parents for, as my dad used to tell people, ruining me with the love of this sport. As a kid, taking us to Joe Memorial Stadium, Santa Fe, Piatone, and here at Grundy County Speedway certainly solidified my love for auto racing. Thank you to them, my wife Jennifer, my sisters Laura and Gail, who got called on to be trophy girls on occasion. My kids, the Anderson and Holbrook families for all of their support, and everyone that came out today. Finally, thank you again to everyone involved with the Hall of Fame. Not only is this an honor, but the fact that you're keeping all these names and the memories of so many great people alive and gathering all these people every year is a really good thing, and I appreciate it, and I know everyone here does. Thank you.
Our next inductee is T.J. Domark. T.J. Domark comes from a racing family. His grandfather, Ziggy, was involved in midget racing in the 1940s. He and his dad, Larry, raced stock cars at Blue Islands Raceway Park in the 1960s. He even had a great uncle, KJ. He wrote a book in the late 1940s, How to Build a Race Car. You can still get a copy of that book through Amazon. TJ's older brother, Todd, raced midgets. Starting around 1988 or so, raced with the United Midget Auto Racing Association, UMARA, and later with the United States Auto Club, in addition to other organizations in the Midwest. During Todd's career, his older brother's career, TJ just kind of hung around and couldn't get in the pit, so he'd hang around in the stands, grandstands, under the grandstands, and became buddies with fellow Hall of Fame inductee Jimmy Anderson, and to this day they're buddies. You know how kids were, though, goofing around under the grandstands, but that friendship still exists today. So T.J. Domark, I ended up taking an alternate route, I guess. I was probably 16 years old or so, and Steve Finnis had bought the family number 5 car, and they were having some moderate success, him and his dad, Steve Finnis and his dad. But one night they came to Grundy here, and TJ was in the pits, and they said, you know, the car ain't running right, you know, maybe you need to, can you look at it a little bit? And so TJ goes, yeah, I can take a peek at it, you know, and he says, I started tearing every shock and spring off that car in the pits here at Grundy. And he put it all back together, and he said, you think this setup's going to work? And he just kind of looked at him and said, I'll see you in Victory Lane. Who wins the feature? TJ, or Steve Finnis with T.J. Domark's help. Steve Finnis, with T.J.'s help, won a bunch of championships with the UMARA feature wins. They won here at Grundy numerous times. But wherever they went, Michigan, Ohio, they were winners. We did rather well, remembers T.J. Besides the success with Finnis, Domark built, designed, and crewed a number of winning cars that won UMARA championships, won race car, won the Rumble at Fort Wayne, also with the Hamiltons, feature wins here and there. Billy Holbert started helping him winning races here at Grundy and other tracks. You still can find T.J. Domark in the pits at Midwest Pavement Midget Series competition here at Grundy. 25 inductee to the Mazon Speedbowl Grundy County Speedway Hall of Fame, TJ Domark.
It's an incredible honor to be up here tonight. Usually you think about the Hall of Fame and you think about drivers being inducted and not necessarily the crew chiefs. So for me to be up here today, I understand, deeply what kind of an honor this is. But if it wasn't for family and friends, it's the support that makes it all happen. I had a wonderful, wonderful group of race car drivers ranging from Billy Holbert, Steve Thinnis, Aaron Andruskevich, the Hamiltons, both Nick and Kyle Hamilton, and now Nick Romas. So, it goes beyond the drivers. There was nights that they carried me and, nights that I felt like I carried them a bit, but at the end of the day, it came down to teamwork, perseverance, and a little bit of luck. I also want to thank the family of all those drivers, the Holbert family, the Hamiltons, those people trusted me with their kids' lives, and, I took that, to heart and made sure that I returned those kids to you every night. So, thank you again, for this wonderful, wonderful honor. Congratulations to Jimmy and Bill Freis, the people that I grew up here at the racetrack with, the Carter and the Anderson family. You guys have been absolutely amazing. And Everett Holt, he was the tech committee, and every time I stretched the rule book as a crew chief, he managed to keep me in line. He taught me that it was okay to be a quarter inch over, or a quarter inch under rather than a quarter inch over. So my race cars to this day are built within the specs, and I owe that one to Everett. So thank you guys. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the day, and congratulations again to everybody.
Our next inductee is George Hopkins. George Hopkins was a race car driver, racing mechanic, including Indianapolis 500 experience, in addition to being a race car owner and having a lot of success in midget auto racing. He was born and raised in Lafayette, Indiana. And he even started driving race cars in the 1930s. He's about 19 years old or so, and he's driving dirt tracks in and around his home in Lafayette. Well, he meets his future wife, Ann, and she kind of lays down the law: no more racing behind the wheel, and I'll agree to marry you. Well, okay, so George likes this little girl. This is pretty cool. I won't be a race car driver anymore, but I'll become a mechanic and work on the cars and wrench them and maybe even own a car or two. He did. He owned even an Indianapolis car there for a while, and even raced as a riding mechanic in the Indianapolis 500. George Hopkins went to work for a fellow by the name of Babe Tuffanelli, Chicago area Indy car and midget car owner who was said to be a reputed mob boss in Blue Island, Illinois, in Chicagoland. During his time with Tuffanelli, he met drivers like Emil Andres and Paul Russo and Johnny Roberts, along with mechanic Charlie Pritchard, who headed up Tuffy's racing operation. Hailing from Minnesota, Pritchard became an adopted member of the Hopkins family, even coming over on Christmas Day to enjoy a Christmas meal with George and his wife and the kids. With Pritchard, Hopkins, and others doing the mechanical work, Tuffanelli at one time had a fleet of Indy cars and midgets, all painted in Tuffanelli's secret formula, maroon and gold. From 1948 through 1952, Babe Tuffanelli was an entry at the Indianapolis Speedway, with George Hopkins helping out. With Tuffanelli getting out of the racing business finally, Hopkins acquired one of Tuffy's Curtis Craft Offenhauser midgets, and these were primo cars, top-notch, state-of-the-art type cars. This car and another car that he added later were kept in the two-car garage at Hopkins' home in Harvey, Illinois. Talk about a star-studded cast. easy for everybody to say. You had drivers like Roberts and Bob Patterson and so many others. You'll be here a good part of the day here thinking about these different drivers that raced for them. Whether it was paved tracks, dirt tracks, or indoors during the wintertime racing, the Hopkins cars were winners in USAC competition. Gary Bettenhausen got his start behind the wheel of a Hopkins midget in 1965. Gary Bettenhausen worked with George Hopkins at a local Dodge dealer in Chicago Heights. Hopkins' son, Ken, who's with us today, later raced midgets with UARA and in the USAC competition. Tells a couple funny stories about a couple of drivers you may know the names, A.J. Foyt and Mario Andretti. George had Foyt lined up to drive his car at a track one summer day, and George tells him, "No, take it easy there, AJ, when you go on the track, kind of, we just got this motor back or whatever, take it easy on hot laps as we start out here." Well, no, AJ Foyt gets behind the wheel, he puts pedal to the metal and bouncing off the wall a little bit. He comes in, Foyt comes in, and George looks at him, he says, "You're fired, get out of here, we'll find somebody else." The Andretti story that Ken Hopkins told me, simple. Mario Andretti, young kid from Pennsylvania, looking for rides here, looking for a ride there, wherever, in USAC racing, comes up to George, he says, "Boy, I'd really like to drive your car." George Hopkins looks at him, "No, kid, you're not ready for this, we'll see you later." But later on, Mario shows up one day at the pits, and the Hopkins cars are there, and he looks at George and tells George, "You think I'm ready now?" And he had a 500 win in his belt. So it's pretty cool story. George Hopkins, successful midget racing car owner, passed away in 1977, one day short of his 65th birthday. 2025 inductee to the Mazon Speedbowl Grundy County Speedway Hall of Fame, George Hopkins, and to receive the honor is his son, Ken. Even Ken Hopkins telling stories about his dad and his career now. It would take a couple of days and maybe a book or two. Ken Hopkins.
Thank you. First off, I want to say thank you to the committee for inducting my father. It makes me proud. And I can't say much, just thank you. And, Dad had the best of the best. Driving Tattersall, he was great. He was my favorite. Of course, Shorty Templeman, Billy Maynard, the list, like he said, just would go forever and ever and ever. But this bit about AJ Foyt is true. He threw his ass out. So, but then, like he said about Mario too, it was down at Fort Wayne Coliseum. Mario come through the pits, Dad had his back to him, getting on the elevator to go upstairs, and he walked up and patted Dad on the back. He says, "Am I good enough to drive for you now?" Dad says, "Get in it." So, but my dad would be so proud. I mean, he would be, thank you, thank you, thank you. So that's all I can say. Thank you very much.
A special award today goes to Everett Holt. Everett Holt, a true race fan. By all accounts, he's attended more than 1,000 midget and open wheel races over his career, going back to the old days at Joliet Memorial Stadium in the early 50s. We all know it, an important part of midget racing are the push vehicles. You can't have midget races if you don't have push trucks. Holt began pushing race cars, midgets at the stadium in July of 1968. Since then, he has pushed off race cars at over 700 races in 11 states at 80 different tracks for 20 different racing organizations. Name the racing organization, and Holt has been involved, including UARA, UMARA, USAC, Badger, Room, IRA Sprint Cars, the All-Star Sprint Series, and the new Midwest Pavement Midget Series. A longtime member of the Grundy County midget racing scene, Everett Holt is honored today for his appreciation appreciation of lifetime support and dedication of midget auto racing. Everett Holt.
I'd like to thank the committee for this honor. It's something that I didn't expect. I don't know what I really did to appreciate it. But the first person that I have to thank is my wife, who stood by me for almost 40 years in the right seat of a push truck, pushing race cars around the track. I tried to do my best for every race car that I pushed, and I took pride in that I never broke one, never turned one sideways while I was pushing. That was awful hard to do on a dirt track. But again, I thank everybody here, especially all the race car drivers who made this possible. Without the race car, there's no need for a push truck. Again, thank the committee. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Jimmy Anderson. Jimmy Anderson says that midget racing has kind of been a long lifetime habit. And he means it literally. He figures he saw his first race in May of 1976. He was born on March of 1976. So do the math, we're talking a few months old. So his dad took him to the midget races at Joliet Memorial Stadium. It's been midget racing pretty much every summer since, says Anderson. He's in his 49th summer, and the wins are still coming. Matter of fact, he won the feature race yesterday here at the Grundy County Speedway. His list of accomplishments are without question Hall of Fame worthy. He started with the UMARA Sportsman Group, and he was Rookie of the Year there in 1995. He was a National Rookie of the Year for the UMARA Group in 1997. His victories: he won at the Rumble in Fort Wayne in 2010, and that's a tough race to win and tough to even make the race. He won the Bob Tattersall Memorial Race in 2011, the Lockhart Memorial Race in 2015. In 2011 and 2024, he captured the Illinois State Championships event. He's been victorious in more than 30 feature races during his career here at Grundy. In 2008, Anderson was a UMARA national champion. From 2011 through 2013, he captured 3 consecutive Stars national titles and added a USAC regional championship to his resume. Last year, he won the Midwest Pavement Midget Series crown, and he currently leads the point standings for that series. He's been following racing all his life. His dad, Jim, introduced him to racing, and he owned cars for a number of UMARA and UMARA drivers, including Don Carter Jr. Don Carter Jr. was a big influence on Jimmy Anderson. For me, it simply was, he said, my influence clearly was Don Carter Jr. He would always be at the garage, and by the end of the week, he'd have everything ready to go. That's where I learned what it takes to be a winner. That's what, to quote Jimmy Anderson. In 2005, Anderson started driving for Bob Guess in national competition. Jimmy remembers probably around 2006, 2007, they had 2 cars, Bob Guess did, and his son Bill was a wrench man, mechanic. His son and I just clicked, said Jimmy Anderson, and there was no looking back. We had a lot of great runs and a lot of great times in those race cars. 2025 inductee to the Mazon Speedbowl Grundy County Speedway Hall of Fame, Jimmy Anderson. Feature winner yesterday, points leader. Wow. How good does it get?
Well, it's not too bad. About 4 months from my 50th birthday, so I suppose just keep doing it as long as we can.
50?
Yeah. Sorry, Stan.
God, here, I gotta sit down.
All right. Yeah. No, I should be good. I should be good. Should be good. I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. It's a great honor to be standing up here 20 years after my dad. It's just been amazing. Got a little something prepared. I told my wife I wouldn't take forever. She likes the time what I'm doing. Kind of rushes me around, so I'll make it quick. As you can tell by the pictures that I chose today on the display board, none of this would have ever been possible without the great people who have supported me over the years. Wonderful sponsors who year in and year out invested in me to promote their business interests. Those people, without them, none of this would be possible. The countless friends who have spent many nights with me in either the garage, at the racetrack, or both. Their support and dedication was always unwavering in the face of adversity during our tough times, and I'm grateful to have shared so many moments with them, so many successful moments with them as well. I'd like to thank my mom and dad for bringing home my first race car in the fall of 1993. It was a car that they had purchased from Alan Gillis. It was kind of a shit box when we started, but the whole premise really was they knew I was going to drive. They just felt like if I was going to do this, that I should probably be in something that they knew was put together correctly. And that's kind of where things evolved from. To my brother Mike, who jokingly, for so many years, most people didn't even know that my brother existed in the racing community. I guess he always told me I kind of took front stage on all that stuff. But nonetheless, he's made me extremely proud of the father, brother, and man that he's been. I'm honored to receive this award, like I said, 20 years after my dad, who was not fortunate enough to be able to stand up here to accept. I'd like to thank my wife, Kimberly, for your unselfishness in taking care of our home while I was always out working on race cars. The many Saturdays carrying both kids up the stairs with strollers and diaper bags while I was in the pit area. To my kids, Alyssa and Jimmy, told myself I wasn't going to do this. That's the tough part. To the both of you, you'll always be my greatest accomplishment. I'd like to thank Bob Guess, who was my partner from 2007 to 2012, when I stepped away from racing full-time at that point. Bob was instrumental in putting us in a position to be able to acquire all the things that it would take to run up front and compete for a championship. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank my buddy Billy Guess. Man, without you and your dedication to always reaching for perfection, I'd certainly not be standing here. You deserve this award as much as I do. And I was blessed to have spent so many hours in the shop leaning on each other in the pursuit of success. Make sure I get everything here. Lastly, thank you to the amazing fans over the years who chose Grundy County Speedway to spend their Saturday nights. I'm grateful for each and every one of them as well. And congratulations to the other inductees today. I really appreciate this honor. Thank you.
Our next inductees are the Craig brothers, Jeff and Dave. Mechanics, car builders, car owners here at the Grundy County Speedway over the years. They say there was one major difference between Jeff and Dave Craig when it came to building and preparing cars. Jeff said, Dave was pretty good at figuring stuff out. He was a mechanic all his life, and he'll try different things, and when we read something, he wouldn't forget it. I always had to go back to the book. There's a lot of books. Being part of the Grundy County Speedway group, The racing accomplishments as car builders and crew members they achieved at Grundy is pretty impressive. Some of their early experience going to the races was at the Mazon Speedbowl. When we were kids, they said, our dad would take us to Mazon. Well, and if you never saw races at Mazon, you'd never seen some races. It was incredible out there. They had the old coupes, they remember, and they'd give a case of beer out if you rolled one over. There was a lot of wrecking. During the early days at Grundy, they built a championship car for Don and Rocky Everett. And Rocky Everett at that time was pretty hard to beat. Later, they had a Mid-Am car. They loved building race cars. When we had the Mid-Am car, Rick Stephens started driving for us. And then a little later on, a fellow by the name of Hoffman, Eddie Hoffman, took over the wheel. And today he's ranked as is the all-time winningest driver here in late model competition. When Hoffman moved up to the late models in 1996, Dave and Jeff were part of the crew. The Appleton car number 8, fast little car. Eddie Hoffman continued. He earned Rookie of the Year honors in both Artco and Grundy that year. 1997, he won both the titles here at Grundy and also the Artco title. I believe that was the last year Artco racing was in existence. And Eddie Hoffman was becoming a proven winner. Eddie Hoffman remembers the Craig brothers. They were very orderly and the car was always ready. I gave them a truck and a trailer and they got it to the track. You could always count on them. It takes everybody to win. You look back now at the drivers that they had, including Eddie Hoffman, what a career for the Craig brothers. 2025 inductees to the Mazon Speedbowl Grundy County Speedway Hall of Fame, Jeff and Dave Craig.
I want to thank the Grundy County Hall of Fame Committee. It's quite the honor. Seeing all these pictures are just amazing. It's just all the history. As you get older, you appreciate the history. I want to thank my family and friends for coming out. Especially thank my wife and daughter for tolerating all the long hours through the years. People like George Appleton that we've learned from, Eddie Hoffman. We always had a great time. So, that's about it. Thanks for everybody.
Our next inductee is Jody Ambrose. It might be easier to list the drivers that have not had success with Jody Ambrose and who he has worked with than saying the ones he has worked with and won with. It all started around 1962. He was in 7th grade at the time, and he helped a guy at Raceway Park. Bud Johnson was his name. He had a little Buick Dynaflow and worked out of a tire shop. And Joe remembers, to quote him, on race day, I left my house at 7 o'clock in the morning to go to Raceway Park, and I didn't get home until 2 in the morning. I was totally dirty and filthy and proud of it. Cars were what interested Jody Ambrose. Even at an early age, nothing else mattered. It was all about cars, cars and more cars. In 1968, Jody Ambrose even tried to drive a little bit, driving a 55 Chevy in the Golden Knights class at Raceway Park. Where it went from there is pretty amazing. Jody Ambrose and his right-hand man and best friend Ted Kerner would become involved in the racing careers of Tom Lamb, Larry Middleton Sr., Wayne Parra, Larry Conroy, Craig Johnson, Dan Shoemaker, and Tony Grundy. A lot of his early success took place at Raceway Park in Blue Island. In 1978, he owned the car that Middleton drove to the late model championship at Raceway. He owned the late model car that Pat Eklund won the late model championship at the Blue Island track in 1984. In 2018, he and Tony Grundy put together the CRA Sportsman Championship victory. Ambrose has been involved with drivers at Grundy since the early 1980s, and he still, to this day, is building cars, consulting. He owns Tech 1 race cars, which provide sales and service for asphalt stock cars. He's had great fun. His son, his oldest son, Tony, also owns and sets up late model cars for Midwest competitors. He has a lot of fun traveling with his youngest son, Joe, a former racer here in the four-cylinder class. He now races on the F3 circuit. Joe likes to stand behind his work and enjoys customer satisfaction. I feel good about it, says Joe. 90% of the people I've worked with ended up being friends, good friends, and we still keep in touch. And when one of them or two pass away, the families still keep in touch. A lot of people have helped me, and I've helped a lot of people. I'm sure glad I didn't listen to my parents way back when. My mom and dad were old school, said Joe, laughing. They always told me, you can't go to the racetrack because it's full of hoodlums. And he said, Joe Ambrose said, I'm proud to say that I'm one of them hoodlums. 2025 inductee to the Mazon Speedbowl and Grundy County Speedway Hall of Fame, Jody Ambrose.
Well done, my friend. Hey, I just want to say, for me to be in the Hall of Fame, this proves God has a huge sense of humor. I want to thank my wife, 45 years. 45? Whatever. Everybody that's here, I appreciate, especially these guys. Raced with almost all of them. Couldn't be prouder. I got a lot of friends. One thing I noticed, I wanted AJ to drive my car, but nobody would give it his number, whatever. But the thread to all this is the people. I mean, we could talk setups and springs and motors and budgets and all that BS, but what ties us all together is people. It took me a long time, hard-headed Dago, it took me a long time to understand that, but this proves why we're all here, because we love racing and we love people. Thanks for coming. You guys do know this is me, right? I mean, we didn't make a mistake, but I don't want to give this back. Oh, my name's on it, so I'm good. Thanks all for coming. Thank you, everybody.
Our next and final inductee into the Hall of Fame this year is Ron Goodacre. Ron Goodacre became a stock car racing fan way back in the early 60s at Indiana Motor Speedway, following a driver that no one in this room probably remembers, a fellow by the name of Joe Linden. His career as a photographer, however, started when a Christmas present. His grandmother gave him a camera for Christmas. His son Chris remembers. He started shooting through the fence, like a lot of us did back then. He was too young to get in the pits, but later, the kids got older. He was old enough now to manage to get into the pit area and take some pictures. And I remember Ron Goodacre taking pictures, whether it was at Indiana or at Grundy. He'd be taking pictures, and I told his son, Chris, one time, I said, you got to get a camera for your dad, and after 400 pictures or 400 images, it stops. It locks up, can't take any more pictures. Ron Goodacre enjoyed taking photographs. He also enjoyed purchasing pictures. He bought pictures from Andy Broad, who's a longtime track photographer here. He bought them from Bob Pilsudski and Chuck Gonzalez, and he bought a whole bunch of pictures for me, and thank you very much, Ron Goodacre, for your money that you spent with me. He became involved starting professionally as a racing photographer. He got his sons Chris and Brian into the racing photography business. Goodacre Photography. They were photographers here at the Grundy County Speedway, and they did some photography at South Bend Motor Speedway and Plymouth Speedway, and even a little dirt track in Indiana, Shady Hill Speedway. The Goodacres, they're involved, I'll say that. With the exception of maybe church and youth sports, racing is what Dad thought about and was involved in, his son Chris said. He was a lot more into short track racing than into NASCAR racing, etc. He always liked going to those little bull rings, et cetera, and watching the races, taking pictures, doing his thing. He was a track official for a time too at Illiana Motor Speedway, up in the scoring tower. And then later, after Illiana closed, he started working out at Shady Hill Speedway, doing scoring and timing. I think Ron Aker was like kind of the last of the breed that knew how to line score. You take a sheet of paper like this, maybe twice as long, and you score lap after lap with a pencil and paper and lines, and a lot of work there and a lot of being very studious to the job at hand. 2025 inductee to the Mazon Speedbowl Grundy County Speedway Hall of Fame, Ron Goodacre. His son Chris and son Brian accepting the award.
Thank you to the committee. This is a big honor for Dad, for our family. He started as a fan, and that passion really grew, and he shared that with us. And as you heard, we're now all in, shooting tracks and podcasts and all kinds of stuff. So we really appreciate it. We know Dad appreciates it. He was really big into relationships, and I know that's really carried us a long way with what we do. But thank you all for being here. Chris.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for taking that. I really like to thank, but really, I guess, more so blame certain people for enabling habits. Between Stan, Andy Grod back there. I can remember, being a little kid, just going into Andy's photo booth, and Dad be going through the pictures. Of course, me being a little kid, I'd be looking for the wrecks. Cause growing up now, I don't like wrecked cars. But yeah, Dad really kind of just. I don't know, what is it, an addiction? This is our third night in a row this weekend. We'll be taking pictures all night tonight on the track. And yeah, I think we talked about there during Dad's Memorial Night earlier this season that he really probably would be angry if he knew we were doing this to him, but oh well, he deserves it. So he can just deal with it. So thank you all for being there. Make sure you come out and watch the races tonight, because that's what we need to keep doing, is keep going to the races, keep supporting the races, keep the racetracks open. I'm not going to sit there.
Chris and Brian Goodacre. The inductees are in the books. 21 years of Mazon Speedbowl Grundy County Speedway Hall of Fame award ceremony completed. If you haven't done so already, take a walk behind the grandstands here, and right in the main entrance, over the main entrance of the Speedway, is the Hall of Fame inductees display, and it has a name plate of each inductee over the years since the first induction ceremony many years ago. I'd like to thank the committee, everyone here for putting on this event, Glenn Myers, Jerry Clark, and the guy in the back there, Ron Kessler, started this many, many years ago and headed this up, and it continues today very well, I think. That's all I have. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of the time, some camaraderie, etc. Thank you very much. We'll see you here next year.